My next guest, I had the privilege to sit down with, specializes in arts. He enjoys speaking and sharing his story to inspire others. Within this episode, we discuss navigating homelessness, finding himself within his career, healing from toxic family members, and choosing healthy masculinity versus toxic masculinity. This is a really great episode. I hope that you enjoy. Hello and welcome to Dem Bois Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Aaron, he, him, his, and I will be your guide throughout this journey on the show. This show is a platform where trans men of color voices will be amplified as we share our stories. Trans men of color are not monolithic. What that means is our journeys are not the same. We come from different backgrounds. We have different stories, family relations, chosen family, and most of all, we have different transition journeys. Visibility equals possibility. I like to say that all the time. We like to highlight on this show trans men of color businesses and entrepreneurs, parents, athletes, survivors, and many other issues and topics that are relatable to trans men of color in our existence. Dem Bois Podcast is not only a platform to amplify our voices, but to raise awareness and conversation around our lived experiences. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for supporting, listening, and sharing the show. Welcome to Dem Bois Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Aaron, he, him, his. My next guest specializes in arts, literature, sketching, graphic design, and website design. He enjoys speaking and sharing his story to inspire others. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm so glad to have you here. Thank you for being a guest on the show. You want to go ahead and introduce yourself for folks to know your name and pronouns?
Okay, so my name is Krow Iroquois. My pronouns are he, him. I am a Black and androgynous transgender man that was born in Montgomery, Alabama. I work with Montgomery Pride United, which is a LGBT organization in my hometown. I work as their graphic design artist and currently the only person that helps them run their social media pages, and also the youth coordinator for our LGBT youth group Colors, which is the only existing LGBT youth group in Montgomery.
How long have you been in Montgomery?
Since I was born, so 22 years.
22 years since you was born. I know we were talking a little bit about Montgomery before we start recording. And so you're going to be transitioning and moving out of Montgomery soon. Is that correct?
Yep.
I wish you all the best in moving and moving somewhere outside of Montgomery. So I want to ask you the name Krow. How did that name choose you?
Interesting question. 3-6 Mafia, Lord Infamous, Scarecrow. I picked the name when I was like 16, listening to 3-6 Mafia. And I remember I was trying to figure out a way I wanted to spell it out. And I came up with the K at the beginning.
So for folks that's listening that don't know the reference, please explain to us 3-6 Mafia.
Okay, so 3-6 Mafia is very old rap group composed of people from Memphis, Tennessee. It's like underground / horrorcore / types, because I listened to old 3-6 Mafia. So it was the underground, devil bullshit, whatever, all that type of stuff.
I can't remember the type of music from Memphis. I don't remember either. When you said that, I was like, "Ooh, I can't even remember." But you're talking about old 3-6 Mafia. We talking about early 90s, late 90s, early 2000s? I can't remember.
Like early 90s, late 90s, yeah.
2000s. Okay. So your last name, how do you pronounce your last name?
Iroquois.
Iroquois. Is there a specific meaning behind that name?
Well, not exactly. So I got Iroquois from a video game originally. Metal Gear Solid 2, when Solid Snake was introduced in the second part of the game, he had this stage name, Iroquois Pliskin. And I just took the Iroquois out and made it my last name. But Iroquois, I believe, is a Native American tribe from somewhere. And I also think that the name itself ties back to snakes somehow.
Mm.
Um, but I've always had like I always felt like a connection to snakes, and it just fit well because Metal Gear Solid is also one of my favorite video game series. So, but yeah, that's where Iroquois comes from.
I feel like an old soul for a second because now I'm like, okay, this reference with the video game, I don't know that reference. So what is that? So explain it to folks that's listening that don't know and me.
Metal Gear Solid is a series of stealth action games. Um, it started off with the Metal Gear series. It was Metal Gear 1 and Metal Gear 2. And then and later on, Kojima, the director, released Metal Gear Solid, which was based off of the main character from Metal Gear 1 and 2. But it kind of became like a whole different type of game somehow. And from Metal Gear Solid onward, it just, devolved into this stealth action game. And pretty much the game is weird. It's hard to explain, but it's, it's like you just go through, you try to sneak through areas without getting caught. Um, and you have to take down bosses with weird names and weird superpowers. And that's honestly the entire series. But just the way every single game progresses with the plot and the storyline, it's like almost mind blowing every single time.
Got you. Okay. Thank you for explaining that. I've never really been a gamer, so I'm kind of like when folks be, talking about games, I'm like, wait, I don't even know that reference. So thank you for explaining. I appreciate that.
No problem.
Yeah. So I want to ask you, so can you tell us your transition journey from where you remember until now?
It started when I was in middle school. It was the social transition aspect when I started realizing that um, my identity wasn't necessarily what I thought it was. I started exploring with things. And at first, I believe I was non binary because I identified as, everything. And then as I progressed, I eventually started exploring with the idea that I could have been a man, but I wasn't that comfortable with. I remember being very uncomfortable with seeing myself as a man for some reason. I feel like it was because at the time I was really disgusted with men. I did not have good experiences with men, and not even just me personally, just being around them and having to deal with them from what my mom dealt with. I was kind of confused at the time. So, it went from gender fluid to just straight up non binary, they, them. And then eventually I kind of came to terms with the fact that, yes, I'm a man. Yes, I want a beard. Yes, I want a deep voice. Yes, I want what every other boy is having. I'm not saying that you have to be a man to want to have all that, but that's, how I processed it at the time. Um, so ever since that point in middle school, which I believe I got to when I was like 15 or 16, I've always identified as a man. I never went back to, she, her, or they, them. I've always just been man. Now, my gender expression kind of flip flopped a lot, but that's, my journey from my identity itself.
So you said that, did you say that you had a bad relationship with men or you view men in a specific kind of way based on the relationship that your mother had with them?
Yes.
So when you began to transition, how were you able to grow yourself to be something outside of what you've seen in the past or what you've seen men that maybe your mother had a relationship with or the types of men that you saw that you weren't happy with? How were you able to transition yourself into a better version of a man?
I didn't do the stupid shit they did. Um, and honestly, let me not say that because I was a little bit of a toxic masculine person at first, but it was because I was still figuring myself out. And the way I attached myself to my identity was just to make myself seem like them, like too hyper masculine, thinking everything is feminine and all that type of mess. But over time, when I got comfortable with myself, I just learned how to be a safe masculine person. And for me, that just looks like, you know, doing right, doing what needs to be done, protecting, providing for who needs to be provided for, um, and just being there, being the the man that is actually masculine, because protector and provider is masculine energy, straight up. Um, when I started navigating into that role, I naturally learned to just be okay with being who I was. And afterwards, I just never really questioned the fact that I was a man. Um, Now, me questioning the fact of whether or not other people perceive me as a man is a whole different story. But I eventually learned how to, settle myself into the role that I knew was supposed to fit for me.
So how were you able to shift from and just I appreciate you for like acknowledging like yo I was a toxic masculine person at first. But how were you able to like shift that from being toxic to being settling in into who you are right now?
I just had to talk to people that were like me. Uh, I just had to be around them. Because when you're okay, when you're around a lot of cis men, you tend to pick up on their behavior, especially when you're trying to like, fit yourself into what it means to be a man, and you see all these other men doing it. You just think, okay, that's what I'm supposed to do. No, I started being around other queer people and other trans people, and kind of it settled down over time. I stopped being a little shithead about my masculinity.
So I want to ask you, like during your transition, did you have some support? Like, did you have family around you, parents, significant other? Did you have anyone that to help you along as you began to transition?
Not quite. My friends were supportive, but that was just my friends. I started medically transitioning when I was in college, socially transitioning. I didn't even come out to anyone except my dad when I was like 17. Um, I didn't come out to anyone until I started medically transitioning within my family. Um, and then when I came out to somebody, that was my mom, and that was the only person I ever told. I was really not interested in telling anybody else. Now, eventually, everybody else found out because she ran her mouth. But afterwards, regardless if she had told them or not, they would have known. Uh, the physical effects started happening really fast for me, actually. Um, and I did try to kind of hide it at first. I don't know why I did, but it gets to a point in your medical transition where you just cannot hide it anymore. So, I just popped up at events, looking different and sounding different. And it's like, okay, whatever. And I knew deep down people were talking about it behind my back, but it got to the point where I was like, I mean, there's no changing it now. There's no going back. There's no reverting it back to how I was. So I just got to live with it and accept it.
So how was it when you came out to your father?
I was nervous, and I don't even know why I was nervous. Because the relationship I have with my father is a lot more understanding and compassionate than it is with my mom. And he wasn't even around a lot. He just came around on birthdays and holidays. Um, and he tries to talk to me as much as possible, but when your father isn't around, you can kind of tell like it's just been so much of a gap that sometimes it seems like he just really doesn't know how to reach out. And I understand that. I don't fault him for that at all. Um, but when I came out to him, I was very nervous because I was so used to dealing with my mom and how she would respond to certain things in my life because she already was a little apprehensive about the fact that I was openly bisexual. Um, I could not imagine coming out to her as trans at 17. I just couldn't. But I came out to my dad. I sent him a long text message. And before I even sent it to him, and I told him, I really have something to tell you, but I don't know. I I don't want to tell you because I feel like, I just don't want you to hate me if you wouldn't like it. And he told me, you know, it's not my job to hate you. It's my job to understand because you're my child. And so that gave me a lot of relief. And I just came out and said it. Very long text message. And the first thing he ever said was, well, that makes sense. And that, that wasn't it, but that was like, well, damn. I really just sat there and psyched myself out over nothing when I knew the whole entire time he would have understood because him and we've always had this bond, even when I identified as a girl and even when I was a tomboy, that, it was almost like a father son bond that was just there. Um, and it wasn't really forced. I've always had a good relationship with my dad. So, coming out to him, it was scary, but in the end, nothing bad happened from it.
So how did that make you feel to hear that reaction from him?
I laughed. Um, it was funny to me because I just spent so much time like mulling it over and being afraid. And, my dad reacted just by being my fucking dad because my dad is a fucking goofball. Always has been, always will be. Um, so when he just said, well, that makes sense, I was like, really? At least you could have said something better. At least be surprised.
Yeah. Let's talk about your mother, because the experience wasn't as good as it was with your father. I'm assuming just based on what you said. And so, how was that coming out to your mother?
That was scarier. Um, and Jesus. When I came out to her, it was a very long text. Um, and I remember it was so anticlimactic because I came out to her through text message and I was telling her I was planning to start hormones soon, and that's why I just went ahead and told her, and she didn't even respond to the text. It eventually got brought back up when she found out I was on hormones. That's when she decided to start talking about it to me. And it wasn't even in like a little lighthearted manner. It was a whole power trip situation because she was being nosy and was finding needles in the trash can and started questioning me on why there were needles in the trash can and making it a whole big scene. Um and that right there, like that whole entire moment, it spanned over months. And that right there was like a prime example of why I never really liked telling her anything because it's I mean I guess I can say we're a lot better than we used to be, but every single time I did something that, made me any type of happy, it's like she's always had this type of energy towards me where she, didn't necessarily hate me, but just had some type of hidden envy for what I was doing. And I never liked that. I never enjoyed feeling that from my own mom. But hey, it happened. It's in the past. I just recently learned how to let a lot of that shit go and move on from it. Um, but in comparison to coming out to my dad, coming out to my mom, it was not fun.
Hey, this is Sean Aaron. I'm the founder and executive director of Dem Bois Inc. I am also the host of Dem Bois Podcast. As you may know, Dem Bois provides financial assistance to trans men of color in order for them to obtain gender affirming surgery. We have great news. We're currently looking for volunteers to help support our programs. Our programs include our gender affirming surgery grant program and also our personal care package program. We personally curate packages filled with personal hygiene items. Just to name a few, things like tissue, soap, towels, toothpaste, and toothbrushes. We mail them out to trans men of color across the country who may be in need of help caring for their personal hygiene needs. We are looking for volunteers to help raise funds to support our programs. Also, we're looking for someone locally to the Bay Area to help us put all of the care packages together. If our mission is something that resonates with you and you would like to help support our work, just let us know. you can send an email to hello@dembois.org. That is HELLO at DEMBOIS.org. And we will get back to you with further details. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoy the next episode. So you said that you recently, like, you've been able to get over that interaction with her. And how were you able to do that?
It wasn't even just her. It was a lot of things I was releasing just recently. It took a lot of reflection, a lot of prayer over 2 months worth of reflecting on myself and building a better relationship with God. I've released a lot of grudges and spitefulness against a lot of people in my past. And one of those people um, is my mom. So after all that, I was just able to finally just let go of things and let them be as they were. And instead of looking back to the past and, holding things against people and wondering why did they treat me like this? Why did this happen? Why couldn't it happen like this? Blah, blah, blah. I just let go. And I forgave everyone. I said, you know what? I'm about to leave soon. I don't have time for this anymore. Clean slate. Everybody's forgiven. I want to move on. I want to be happy. I don't want to sit here and reflect on things and be mad about everything all the goddamn time. I just want to be happy. And so I let go.
When you say clean slate, are you saying clean slate, we can start all over, or clean slate, but I'm still done with you?
For some people, it's clean slate. We can start over. For a lot of people, it's clean slate, but we are done. Because when I leave, a lot of people, I'm never speaking to these people ever again. But when it comes to my mother and, a couple of other people, it's clean slate. Let's start over because that's my mom. Um, I have very faint memories of how our relationship was when I was little, and we had a bond like no other. Truthfully, we did. It's just over time when she was dealing with all this stress. Um, she never really got to heal from the things she went through when she was my age because she had me. So, and then she had two more kids after that. So it's like, you know, raising kids, and then you're trying to keep your household together. You're a single mother on and off with all these shitty men, and then you're dealing with the shitty man. You just, at some point, you just lose yourself. So when I let all that shit go, it helped me understand where she was coming from. And so, like, I'm not saying that I void any accountability for my mother whatsoever, but I know that the way that she had treated me, she really was just doing the best she ever could. She was only doing what she understood how to do because she wasn't really taught how to do it better than how she did it. So, hey, but as for the people that came before her, the ones that raised her, no, no, it's clean slate, but I'm not talking to you ever again because they have put me through so much bullshit lately. So much. Um, and so when they put me through the shit that they put me through, I was finally able to walk in her shoes. And that's part of the reason why I was able to let all that shit go because I finally understood where she was coming from. I saw it from her eyes, everything. And I feel like honestly that just brought us a bit closer, even if today she probably doesn't even realize this. Um, but it did. And I do pray and honestly I do know in the future we'll be a lot better. Her and I will be able to resolve all these differences. We'll be able to actually sit down and, have a better relationship with one another. Um, but right now, I was kind of keeping my distance for a while just to get myself together. And I'm going to try to spend as much time with her as I can before I go. But once I'm gone, I'm going to be solely focusing on me. And of course, I'll check in with her and my brothers and everything. But you know, me leaving, the whole purpose of that is just to get my life together. Um, so I can, come back brighter and better than ever. And, make my mama proud, honestly. Shit. I know she has a lot of faith in me. Deep down, I do know that. It's just really hard to see that right now. But I know. I know.
Have you ever had a conversation with her, that moment that you felt like, oh, I get it now. I see why you are the way you are and what you went through. Did you ever have a conversation with her about that, about being able to see it from her point of view?
I haven't yet, but I do plan to. Um, I did call her today and tell her that I bought my plane ticket to Cali. Um, which she eventually, got a little wiry about it. 'Cause technically, yes, it was an adrenaline thing, and not everything is set in place just yet, with my housing in Cali and all that shit. But I did call her with the intention of, sitting down with her and going out to eat and just talking to her about things before I left and, trying to repair things and trying not to make it seem like I'm leaving just because I don't want to deal with her. Because I feel like it may be the way she's processing it at this time because before today we were falling out really, really badly over some things. And this was months ago, but it's just we have not really talked to each other since. So I just want to go ahead and sit down with her and you know have a decent conversation with her, and you know try not to argue with her anyway because
Mhm.
it's not gonna make it any better than it is.
Do you feel like the relationship will get better because of the space and the distance between the two of you?
Yeah, I do.
Mm, mm. Or do you have an action plan, I should say, or like a plan of action of things that you plan to set forward to kind of like mend your relationship with your mother while you in California?
Yeah. I just when I get there, I just plan to keep her updated as much as possible because I know she's gonna worry herself to death. Um, like I said, she's still my mama. She's just concerned that I'm going so far away from her, and really anything could happen to me. But I know I'm going to be fine. So I'm going to keep her updated as much as possible. I'm going to tell her how I'm doing. I'm going to tell her, you know, new things I may have accomplished. I'm just going to keep her updated, and it won't even. I suppose it won't really be like a month to month thing. It'll probably be like, every single time something happens, I'll let her know, like, hey, this happened. Hey, that happened. Hey, how are you? And I also check up on my brothers too. And every time I check up on them, I ask about her. So, yeah, I do have a game plan in action just for us to be able to build that relationship back up to what it used to be. Because, I think the main thing about it was just her being able to see me thrive without her. I feel like that would help her better, get accustomed to who I am as a person, and for her to, let go of certain habits and routines she's been using when she was raising me and, conversing with me and interacting with me um, over time. We'll get there over time.
So your two brothers, are they older than you or younger than you?
They're younger.
So have you ever sat down and had the conversation with them about transitioning?
Not really. Um,
No.
nah, you know, uh, I want to say they don't really understand it, but at the same time, they don't really care. At the end of the day, I'm still their elder sibling. They always listen to me. They look up to me a lot. I talk to them as much as I can, or as much as I, can manage. We didn't always have a tight bond as we did. We used to fight a lot, but that's what siblings do. But when I got older and I moved out, we got real tight. So me and them, it's never really a problem about my identity or who I am. I'm their elder sibling. That's it. You know.
Mm, mm. So I want to ask you, do you have a bit of advice to somebody that's listening to say, hey, I want to come out to my parents and to my people? And I'm nervous, just like, just like you were. Do you have any advice of like how someone should say, hey, this is what I'm doing. I plan on transitioning. I plan on medically transitioning. Do you have any advice for people that are listening?
Come out when you're absolutely ready. And if you feel like, it's not good to come out to somebody specific, well, don't. Um, but come out when you are ready, come out when you are stable. And honestly, I suggest coming out when you are in a place where you do not have to rely on certain people. Because if you are in a spot where you have to rely on people that may not support you or, are envious of you, it might not end too well. Um, Unfortunately, coming out is a thing that has to be very strategic and planned. And I wish it wasn't, but it does. But if anybody ever wants to come out to anybody they want to come out to, that's my personal advice. Speaking from experience.
So are you saying like wait until you in your own place, or wait till you out of your folks' home or the people that raised you home, or you or not have to rely on them paying your bills or doing that type of thing? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to talk about something because you mentioned wanting to talk about navigating homelessness. So I talked about surviving homelessness in the first season, episode 3. And I've never really had anybody on the show to talk about that with of how navigated it. But would you like to share your story around that, around homelessness?
In December of 2023, I did have to move out of my apartment. I had lived in that apartment for 2 years, but I had to move out because I couldn't afford it anymore and I had to move back in with family. So while I have a roof over my head, technically I'm homeless because this is not my house. I've been here for 4 months, and ever since I've been here, I've wanted to leave so fucking bad. It just divine timing, everything divine timing. The problem here is that when I go to Cali, I'm going to have fucked up credit because when I was living on my own, I fucked my credit up really badly. So, you know, from my relative's house, I'm going to have to go into an extended stay because I actually can't stay here any longer. Not only because of my personal health, but because people are talking behind my back and they were going to plan on putting me out anyway. So, whatever. But I did go ahead and book an extended stay from Saturday up till the point I moved to California. And once I get to California, what I feel like is probably going to end up happening is going to have to book a room again. And then, as I do that, I look around, integrate myself into the area because my job does not start until August. I register in July 30th, but it doesn't start till August 5th. So from June 8th to July is going to be a whole big gap where it's just like, okay, now what? So when I get to California, I do want to have a stable place. It's going to have to be a hotel somewhere because I can't, get approved for apartments right now. But just somewhere, I camp out for a while I try to figure out my life, and I just get myself acclimated into the area. Um, Walk around, see who I can get to know, uh, explore all the different cultures there, explore all the different things. And honestly, that's really fucking scary because I've never been in any type of state by myself. Um, any other state by myself. Especially not out where I've never been down that way. But it's something I have to do for myself, really. It really is something I have to do for myself. Um, so while I'm frightened, I think I'll be okay. I think I'll make it.
How are you able to maintain your mental health and your spiritual health?
A lot of cleansing. Daily spiritual baths, and I'm being so serious. Because the interesting thing about my spiritual health is that I'm actually under heavy ass spiritual attack every single day. Because I was assigned to be on this earth to be a generational curse breaker. So with that, it comes spiritual warfare. Like I'm fighting for my life every day, spiritually, every day. Um, it's just hard to see that now because I've cleansed myself so much and learned how to do protection over myself so much that it hardly really penetrates my energetic barrier anymore. Um, but as for mental health, that's directly tied to my spiritual health. But at the same time, I'm also around healthier people and I have healthier friends. I have a healthy job. Like it's just all the energy around me that I want in my life is good energy. So it helps keep me sane while I'm going through all this spiritual fucking nonsense that I'm going through. And it is fucking hard, but I'm doing it and I'm living.
But what if somebody listening to say, Krow, can you give me some advice? Because I'm having a hard time keeping it together. I'm somewhere where I don't want to be, and I'm having a hard time with my mental health. Is there any advice that you would give somebody that's listening about how to maintain that?
You got to find healthy patterns and healthy routines. And I'm saying this from a perspective of somebody that cannot afford a therapist. If you know you can't afford the medical route, it's always self help. Journaling, reading self help books, you know, and just being around good people. I cannot stress that enough. Please, please, please find a community of people that you feel safe and secure around. Find a community of people that actually love you for who you are. Because if you are not around the right people, you are going to be under mental turmoil a lot. It's going to be very hard to break yourself out of any mental bondage or any spiraling if you're just around shitty people all the time, which in the past, it was a slight problem for me. I attached myself to people who were just, you know, I mean, I saw them as my friends, but they just they needed some work done on them. And eventually I had to separate myself from those people. And ever since I have, I prayed for a healthier and a happier life every single damn day. And now I'm living that life. I got healthy people. I eat healthy foods too. That's another thing. Eating healthier, eating healthier. It can start with just cheese and fruit. That's healthier than a bag of chips and some fucking bullshit from McDonald's. You just bringing healthier routines into your life will help your mental health get better. I promise. Like people will sit here and think that's bullshit, but it's not because I'm a walking testimony of that. Seriously.
People take for granted that taking care of yourself is in like your mental health, your spiritual health. It's your whole body in general, right? And that means from the inside and out. So it's what you put in your body, what you do, where you go, who you hang out with, what negative self-talk or like the communication that you have with yourself or others, right? All of that affects who you are as a person and how you maintain being maintaining good mental and physical health. So I appreciate you for saying that, like watching what you put in your body, even though when you said fucking McDonald's, I was like, damn, sometimes sometimes I really like McDonald's. I have no idea why I always get this like craving for McDonald's at times. And I rarely put that type of shit in my body, but every now and then, and it's always like 2:30 in the morning. I'm like, damn, I wish I had some McDonald's fries right about now. But it's being mindful, right? About like I'm not talking about like I'm eating it every day, but it's like being mindful of like what you put in your body as well. So I appreciate that advice.
Yeah. And honestly, I still get McDonald's cravings because I have not had McDonald's on a day-to-day basis like I used to in a long ass time. I really do get McDonald's cravings. And sometimes, yes, I will eat McDonald's. But like, it's just like you said, you don't eat it every day. So yeah, just not ingesting those types of things every single day because all of it is processed bullshit. And it's not even just fast food. It's the stuff like frozen foods in Walmart, you know, it's just certain things that I can't even stomach anymore because I've gotten so used to like, you know, eating yogurt and fruit and drinking vanilla almond milk is, I try to, buy a frozen meal and I can't even stomach it. I can't even finish it anymore because I don't want this shit. I accustom my body too much to healthy foods and water. Like, uh,
Yeah. And then once you start doing it, eventually your body gets used to it, right? And it's not like, okay, I'm gonna start off tomorrow and everything is gonna be healthy. It's just like you said, right? You're starting off with fruit and cheese. It's like just taking those little baby steps to shifting the way and things that you put in your body, right? Some people are like, oh, I can't do without soda. But then one trick that I found out, well, I don't really do soda too much, but one trick that I found out is like seltzer water. That's one thing that I'll do now. I'll put it, and then I might drop a couple of drops of like Crystal Light in there. And then that's like drinking a soda, but it's like sugar-free Crystal Light, but then it's seltzer water and it's tricking my body thinking I'm having a soda, right? So it's kind of like making those little changes over time. And then eventually you'll be like, oh, I can't even stomach that shit because you haven't had it in so long and you didn't even realize that you don't even need to eat it no more because you don't eat it no more. You know what I mean? So it's like being mindful of, I really appreciate that of like saying being mindful of your body and what you're putting in it because it's a reflection of how you want your body to perform on a day-to-day basis.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Hey, this is Sean Aaron, the host of Dem Bois Podcast. Are you enjoying the podcast so far? Great. I'm glad that you are. Would you consider donating today to help support the continuation of this podcast? As you know, this podcast aims to serve as a platform to highlight and amplify the voices of trans men of color and share our transition stories. The podcast not only aims to amplify trans men of color voices, but it also raises awareness around our lived experiences. You would like to donate? Where can you donate? Great. I'm glad that you asked. Link in our description will take you directly to Network for Good, whom we've partnered with in order to collect donations for the podcast. Or you can visit our website. On the website, click the donate button, and from there, you are able to donate directly to the podcast. All donations are tax deductible. What does the donations go to? Oh, I'm glad that you asked. Your donation will help to support our production costs. We are working with Jasmine from Pink Lady Productions that brings you this awesome content. And also, we pay our guests an honorarium. Pay our guests an honorarium. Yes, we do. Why? Because as trans men of color, we would like to support and uplift each other and honor the time that's given out to come here and share their stories. So if you love this podcast, share and donate. See you on the next episode. Take care. So I know also that you want to talk about like finding yourself within your career. So how did your career help you to find yourself?
Well, the last 9 to 5 job I ever had before I started doing what I'm doing right now was working housekeeping, and I was working with my godmother. The day I quit that stupid ass job, a day later, um, I ended up getting a job with Montgomery Pride United as a graphic design artist and as part of the development of Colors, which is the youth group. And when all that happened, it felt like I was finally aligning with what I was supposed to be doing in this life. Like, seriously, because I've always wanted a healthy and fluid job where I can just do things that I actually like. And it started off with graphic design. Um, and now it honestly, it's been so long, it's gotten to the point where it's starting to fucking annoy me now. But at the end of the day, it's doing something I like. So even though it annoys me, it's only really because people keep overloading me with shit like, hey, do this. And then they want me to do this graphic. And oh, we got another graphic to fucking do. And it's just now I got fucking 10 different goddamn graphics to do. And it's only been like 2 days. But, you know, I still get it done and I do it well because I'm really good at it. And that's really all I ever wanted out of a job. Just having a job that I actually like, having a job in a field that I know I would actually do good in, and not just working to, pay this bill or working to feed myself, but working for the better of the community, which is where being a civil rights activist ties into it. Because when you get involved with a civil rights activist organization, you are now a civil rights activist. So then I started, helping organize events. Then, now I'm speaking at events. Now I'm figuring out, I'm actually I really like speaking. I really like talking to people. I something about me speaking to others about myself and my story. It helps me heal myself. And now I'm figuring out maybe maybe my purpose is also to be on a stage. So it was from like that moment onward, doing graphics to, working with the youth group and then organizing events and then just started talking. It's like I was just figuring everything out. I was getting in alignment with my spiritual assignment.
I love that, getting in alignment with your spiritual assignment. So do you feel like in this moment you're living your purpose?
Absolutely. I knew this is something I'm actually supposed to be doing right now. This very podcast episode. It is something that God wants me to do right now.
Mm.
So yes.
Mm. So on that note, if this is something that God wants you to do, is there something out there that's on your heart right now that you would like to say? It could be advice, it could be words of wisdom, it could be anything that comes to your mind that you want to say from you to folks that are listening.
Love your children, whether they are gay, straight, transgender. It does not matter. Please love your children. Please take care of your children. Please look after your children. And also, please be kind to animals. Please be kind to animals. They, just like children, are creatures that are closer to spirit than you can ever imagine. Please be kind to animals. Please love your kids.
Please love your kids. It's every time I see somebody, that's one of my bits of advice when I be saying people like they're like, oh, I'm working on having a child, or when people talk about their children, and I'm talking about a younger age. And I always tell people like, if anything else, love your child. And whatever that encompasses, love your child. And just like you said, like if you love your child, it shouldn't even matter, right? If you're giving your child genuine love, it shouldn't be conditional. So it shouldn't matter if your child becomes this or your child becomes that or not, right? It's like love your child. And I know when I was growing up, I didn't really get that. And so to know when I became a parent, that's one of the things that I've tried very, very hard to do. I'm very careful about what I say to my son. I'm very careful about what I do. And even if it's something silly that he does or says, and you thinking in your mind like that was so dumb. But nah, I would never say that to my child, right? So it's like loving my child no matter what. I think that's so important. And no matter what the world says, if you go home and you had the love of your parents, that's all that matters. Like you could conquer the world with the love of your parents. Um, are you a parent?
I'm not, but I do want to be someday.
And so with that advice that you gave to other folks that are listening, how can you implement that into your life as a future parent?
Honestly, the steps I'm taking right now, even if it's not even really about children, it's preparing me to be a better father because first off, I don't want my kids to grow up in Alabama at all. I don't want them to have to grow up from what I grew up from, which was damn near nothing. Um, and when I do get to California, I do want to be able to get myself together to the point where I'm able to start my own mortgage, have my own house, have my own items. I just want my children to have stability, which is not something I grew up with. Um, my mom and I, even when it was just us two and the other two weren't born yet. It was like we were always moving around. It was never really stable, but it was just us two against the world. And that's something I always appreciate about those memories because it always ties back to how, no matter what the fuck she was going through, my mom still loved the shit out of my ass and did the best she fucking could. But I don't want my kids to have to go through that. I want my kids to have stability. I want my kids to have peace. I just want my kids to have things that I could never have. And I want my kids to not, you know, have to think about the next time they're going to eat, or my kids to have to think about, you know, maybe they can't get this toy because I gotta save my money to pay bills, shit like that. I don't want my kids to have to go through that shit. So every single fucking step I'm taking right now, it's with, getting my life together, working a job I want to work, healing myself, working with teenagers, going to California, then working with younger kids, tutoring them, trying to build myself up to where I can afford my own house and my own plot of land. I'm doing all of that for whatever future child that I have. And it could be my own blood. It could be a child I've adopted. It could be a child I could save one day that's not even mine. Just being in an organization, I could just be saving another child. I want to have all that. So whatever child comes my way has everything that they ever need.
Raising a child is definitely hard, and I love that you are saying that you are preparing yourself for that. And that means a lot, and that shows a lot about your character and who you are. And so, yeah, my son is not a kid anymore, and sometimes I'm like, damn, did I? He's 27 now, but it's like all of those things that you're saying of like prepare. I wish some things I wish I could do over, right? But then some things I don't. I know it was a lot. I was intentional about being a parent, and now he couldn't get everything that he needed at one time. But I know that my mom emotionally scarred me, verbally abused me, and I knew that that was one thing that I wasn't going to leave with a child. And so to know that you want to be a parent and to prepare yourself for that, that's beautiful. So this is the part of the show that I like to ask my guests a random question. I have a list of questions that's continuously growing. I have 42 questions now. And so just pick a number between 1 and 42 and I reach you that question. It may or may not have anything to do with what we talked about today.
Okay, 17.
So number 17 says, what was the one thing someone told you prior to transitioning that once you transitioned, you realized was false?
An old friend of mine, a friend I had back when I was in middle school, we were having the conversation about peeing in men's bathrooms. And he said some bullshit like, men only really use the toilets in the bathroom to shit, and then, they use the the ones on the wall to pee. So the toilets is just reserved for pooping. So if somebody were to go in there and pee, they're holding it up like the pooping line or whatever. Um, so I was like, okay, I forgot why we were even on that topic, and it was not related to trans people, but I had asked them, okay, so what if a trans man has to go in there and he has to pee? And he was like, oh well, I don't know. I really don't know what happens then, but I just know that, the toilet is reserved for pooping but that was never true. Because I actually know some cis men that go go in the stall and sit down and still piss. Like, yeah, but that's something that, I heard before I even transitioned or even realized I was, trans, and found out it that never was true
Yeah,
ever.
that's not even true. Yeah, I know a few cisgender men that sit down to pee too, and that's just one because that's comfortable for them. And hell, if you want to do that, you could do that. Take a load off your feet. Shit, you know what I'm saying? Don't have to be shitting just to go use the toilet. That's kind of, I guess in middle school, you kind of in middle school, like, people say different types of things, but I do know people that sit to pee, and I know one guy that sits to pee because he was raised by women, so that's just something that he was accustomed to, right? And so standing up is just not something that he does. And so the one thing that somebody told me prior to transitioning that I found that was false was that being a man, you can't be around children. That was what somebody told me. So I was fearful at first when I transitioned. I'm like, oh, people ain't gonna want me around their kids. But then I realized, wait a minute, like, why am I believing that? That shit is not true. So yeah. Krow, thank you so much for being a guest on the show. I really appreciate you. Is there any last moment or last things that you would like to say before we go?
Love yourselves. Love people around you. Please keep yourself safe. Please find community. Please separate yourselves from negative thoughts and emotions and people and places and things. And please, once again, love your kids and be kind to animals. That is all.
So we have reached the end of this episode. I want to say thank you for listening to Dem Bois Podcast. Once again, I'm your host, Sean Aaron, he, him, his. Be sure to visit our website at dembois.org. That is DEMBOIS.org. If you would like to connect with us, be sure to follow us on Instagram or Facebook. If you think you would be a great guest on the show, or if you know somebody you think would be a great guest on the show, there's multiple ways to request to be a guest on the show. First is you can go visit our Instagram page, click the link in our bio, and from there you'll be able to request to be a guest on the show. Or you can visit our website, click the programs tab up top, scroll down to podcast, click the podcast button, and from there on the podcast page, you'll be able to request to be a guest on the show. Yo, we need questions, y'all. If you have those burning questions, a question that you want to ask me or a future guest on the show, there's multiple ways that you can send in questions, right? So first, you can go to Instagram, DM us that question, or you can email us at hello@dembois.org. That's HELLO, like hi, at dembois.org. Be sure to like the show. Be sure to share this show out with your friends and other folks in your networks. So until next time, take care.